Did Philadelphia just win free agency? Not only did they get themselves Paul freaking George, they went out and got themselves Kelly Oubre back. Not only did they bring Kelly Oubre back, they went out and they brought in Eric Gordon on a minimum contract. And not only did they do that, they brought in Andre Drummond, all right, on a 2-year, $10 million deal. And they're expected to bring Tyrese Maxey back on that 5-year, $205 million deal. So currently, if you're looking at the Philadelphia 76ers roster, it is Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Paul Reed, Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond, Adem Bona, Jared McCain, and Ricky Council. Also, ignore the fact that we have Jared McCain listed as a small forward. It's just for the sake of this. I should have moved him over to the shooting guard. But let's just talk about the main news. Paul George. Yes, Paul freaking George. It's happened. In the early hours of Monday morning, the Clippers lost Paul George for nothing to the Philadelphia 76ers on a 4-year, $212 million deal. Straight up, he'll join Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid to create a formidable trio that will compete against the Boston Celtics. And this is a guy who this past season averaged 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. And this is, as a result, 34-year-old joins the Sixers that have been a team that has underachieved since Joel Embiid blossomed into one of the top players in the NBA, and bringing in Paul George is seen as the perfect complementary player to Joel Embiid. And now, hopefully this offseason, we obviously knew that it had been kind of danced around that the Sixers were trying to go out and get Paul George. And for years, the Sixers have been trying to build around Embiid. They failed with Ben Simmons, then Jimmy Butler, then James Harden. And Daryl Morey was prepared to do whatever it took this offseason.
So the Philadelphia 76ers got themselves Eric Gordon. I think that was a very solid pickup, as Eric Gordon's going to be a guy that, at this point in his career, obviously Eric Gordon isn't the guy that he once was. He's best suited off the bench at this point in his career. I think with him, for what we saw last year was a very weird year. He played 28 minutes a night, primarily off the bench, and he put up 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and that was almost identical to the numbers he had with the Clippers in 25 minutes a night, 11 points, just under 2 rebounds, 2 assists. So it's not like his numbers drastically changed from when he went to the Clippers to the Suns. So that's one thing you have to know. But the year when he was with Houston, he was putting up, I know those Houston teams were bad, but still 13 points a night for 2 seasons in a row with just under 3 assists. And before that, he was an 18 points per game scorer at different points for Houston. So my whole thought is, is he going to go here? Because he's obviously going to come off the bench. You want him to be a 6-man. That's what you hope. Unless you're thinking, oh, Jared McCain's going to be your 6-man. Because I'd rather start Jared McCain as a 3-point shooter and have Eric Gordon come off the bench and help run the second unit with whoever you have. Your assumption is you're bringing back Kyle Lowry. So Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon off the bench is way more exciting than Jared McCain and Eric Gordon, because that way you have some ball creation. Then Jared McCain can play next to Tyrese. I know Tyrese is small, but that's the whole process there. And we're thinking that they're bringing back Kelly Oubre. If they bring in Paul George, now you start Tyrese, Paul George, you have Jared McCain, Kyle Lowry, and Eric Gordon off the bench as your guard rotation. You bring back Kelly Oubre, who's then your wing, and then as your 4, you have Paul Reed. You just brought in Andre Drummond. Now you just got to figure out who's your starting power forward, unless you're going to be like, okay, Kelly Oubre, and you'll start Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Paul George, and Joel Embiid, and go really wing a perimeter heavy around, going a 4 out, 1 in, which is what Mr. Daryl Morey loves. So for me, I think this is definitely something very, very interesting to see how it all plays out. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, though. If you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I think this is a good move, because Eric Gordon's not going to be that expensive. Seriously, Eric Gordon was probably on the cheaper side of things because of his age, and I wouldn't be surprised if he left money on the table to go ahead and take this deal with the 76ers because it would allow him a chance to actually play serious minutes on a contender team. So I think that's just really smart on his part. I don't know. Let me hear your thoughts.
They've strengthened their roster with Kelly Oubre, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond, and there's still more people that they're going to go out and get. And I think that's something that's going to be really exciting about this, is how we're going to continue to be able to construct this roster with the players that are available. Now, I think we are looking at this situation and seeing, okay, who's still on the market that they could bring in. I think Malik Beasley, who bounced back from a tough stint with the Lakers on the Bucks to being one of the best three-point shooters this past year. He's still a bit of a turnstile in defense, even though he has the size to be an all-right defender. But his scoring off the dribble, 11 points, 3.7 rebounds, 1.5 assists on 41% from three, is something to look at. Saddiq Bey is coming off a torn ACL, so I don't think that's something that should look at. But Gary Trent is a guy that they could look off the bench, or Kyle Anderson if they're looking for some help at the power forward position. And I think that's the next position that they're going to address, is the power forward position. Now, do they go after a guy like a Miles Bridges, a Kyle Anderson, or a Taurean Prince? Do they bring back Nick Batum? Do they bring in a Jay Crowder? I think those are all people that they're probably considering at those positions. I think that's something that you got to look at. And also, them bringing in Eric Gordon, who's going to be a guy that is going to really, really, really help them out, I think is huge for them. Huge, huge, huge. As they're a team that, to me, is only going to get better with more and more time as they finish up the season, or this off season. So for me, I think they've done a great job. But I think they need to find a forward. They've got their backup big. I mean, they need to find a power forward. And I think Dario Saric, Jalen Smith are two guys that they should be looking at. Outside of that, I know it does get a little bit hairy, as Tobias Harris and Miles Bridges are the best you would guess forward options available for them. But for what they were able to get at this point, I think was a pretty good job. That's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think? I thought this was a really, really good one. Also, I like how Eric Gordon isn't showing on this picture, but on the one that I posted on the internet, he is. So, and yeah. Okay. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see how they've done this offseason. They've been able to pivot because they knew they had to put a contender around Mr. Embiid, and they had to do it quick. So for me, I think it looks very interesting how they've been able to do this.